Here it is, the Pandora handheld gaming computer released in 2010. Based around an ARM platform and running Linux at its heart, the Pandora was not just a handheld console, but also offered PDA capabilities and could also run an ordinary Linux desktop. It's Christmas time. I'm the Vintage Collector, and these are my short Advent time stories. Weighing in at just around 320 grams at the size of roughly 14 by 8 by 3 centimeters, the Pandora housed a 4.3-inch 800 by 480 resolution LCD touch panel, a reduced 43 QWERTY keyboard, and the usual gamepad controls and shoulder buttons. Besides an internal 512 MB flash and 256 MB of RAM, which in later revisions was up to 512 MB as well, it features two SD card slots. That allows the Pandora to also boot off an SD card in addition to the internal flash, and we'll come back to that one in a moment. On the backside of the unit you'll find the connection options. The device features a standard Type A USB 2.0 port, a USB on-the-go port for charging, another connector for the included power supply, and an AV connector to connect it to a TV set. I didn't get that particular cable along with the device, though it still seems to be available for purchase here. The Pandora wasn't of course the first of its kind, but what is remarkable is that it was created in an open community-driven approach. Years before, South Korean company Game Park Holdings brought the GP32 and the GP2X, which was also built around an ARM platform featuring Linux. Their open architecture allowed anyone from ordinary users to homebrew and commercial developers to expand on the capabilities. When development of the Pandora began, the community was formed around former GP32 and GP2X users trying to furtherly evolve the concept. The result was a handheld gaming device that could also run a Linux desktop and had access to the vast amount of open source software out there. Development and production of the Pandora was financed through a crowdfunding approach in 2008, with first units shipped in 2010. A total of 7,500 units were made throughout its lifetime, of which 6,000 units had been shipped by end of December 2013, with the final batch just having begun the production run in November the same year. It is said that by 2012 there was still 400 early supporters waiting to receive the console. While the German Open Pandora GmbH had fulfilled their pre-order backlog, the UK-based Open Pandora Limited ended up in financial troubles, leaving a significant amount of customers out in the rain. Even though there was no legal obligation, the German company stepped in to provide units at discounted prices, even organizing community funding to cover the loss. Troubled times, which may or may not be related to having production runs in Texas originally, later shifting them to Germany, apparently due to production issues, causing further delays. The latter at least had the benefit of providing said 512 MB ROM upgrade, with replacements boards being offered to existing Pandora users at discounted pricing. Said that, it's about time to look at this one here to see what we've actually got. Inside the carry case I found the battery, whereas the cardboard box contains some extra rubber feet, a replacement lid for the battery compartment, and an enclosure to stow away the battery. Along as well comes this tiny quick start guide, which just tells you enough about the unit to get started.
What was that?
That's news from our sponsor today, PCBWay. This December they're bringing the holiday cheer with their special Christmas event running from December 12th to December 31st. Free coupons to save on your next PCB project, free Christmas PCB prototypes because nothing says festive more like a custom designed board, and my favorite, unboxing blind boxes. Who doesn't love a bit of mystery during the holidays? Head over to PCBWay.com and check out their Christmas event before it's gone. I was really anxious whether it would boot or not, but apparently it does come up, booting right away into OpenZaxxon 1.76, which was based on Angstrom. Angstrom was a Linux distribution aiming at embedded devices. And I was quite happy to find that Angstrom also supported the Siemens SimPad. I received one of those last year, so maybe it's about time to do some exploration into that one as well. Although Angstrom seems to be dead since a few years, its last release dates back to 2017, that's not so much an issue here. I'm anyway after contemporary OS versions to suit with the hardware. When you check pandorawiki.org, you'll find alternate options to run on the Pandora besides Angstrom, be it Slackware, the Debian derivative Pandion, Gentoo, Android and RISC OS. While I was reading through the wiki, most of them seemed defunct as well, and even so, it had initially sparked my interest. Reading that you required external peripherals to make it run, RISC OS was out for me. Let's focus on OpenZaxxon instead, which was the default OS specifically adapted for the Pandora. My goal is to reflash the OS, as when removing the SD card, I found it boots into the older 1.55 release of OpenZaxxon. Luckily, it can still be retrieved online, and getting it onto the SD card is as simple as formatting it as FAT and extracting the zip archives content right into it. As per the instructions, the Pandora must be disconnected from the power source, which means removing the battery. Then fumble it back in while pressing the right shoulder button to have it bring up the boot menu.
May I?
Oh, and one thing I observed was the battery has expanded a bit as the battery lid is bent outwards. Guess I should replace that battery.
Yes, but
when trying to boot into it by selecting the SD from the boot menu, I'd end up with this error message here.
Are you?
I was then trying with another SD card which seemed to be more promising until I ended up here being unable to furtherly access the SD card. Oh well.
I've seen this.
And since all good things are three, here's another one. And that one seems to work, eventually ending up to reflash the root file system. Now, you may wonder the fuzz around those SD cards. Apparently nothing, as all three are good. Although there have been some reports about not all cards being compatible with the Pandora. However, I had also suspected it to be an issue with the file system. So for the third card, I specifically forced it to format as FAT16 instead of FAT32, which seemed to do the trick, at least for me.
Really?
Yes! What is it already?
You do remember what happened when you reflashed something before?
No! Oh my, are you now pulling out these stories from oblivion every time? Look, nothing happened. It works and just boots off fine into OpenZaxxon release 1.76. I've opened Pandora's box and have to go through some initial setup routines now, like calibrating the screen, because yes, it also has a stylus.
Who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away and you lose them. Yuck.
I can also choose between different GUI options. We'll have a look at those in a few moments. But first I get asked whether I want to overclock the CPU or not. The Pandora sported the OMAP 3530 SoC by Texas Instruments, which initially included a 32-bit ARM Cortex-A8 CPU running at 600 MHz. Later revisions bumped this up to a whopping 1 GHz. But even for the lower spec models, overclocking was possible and offered as a choice if you wanted to. I'm not going after speed records here, so I'll stick around with the default clock speed at 600 MHz as I want to preserve this nice little machine, not fry it. Eventually I'll end up on the menu menu, which gives an appearance close in style to other consoles with easily accessible functions either through the analog pads or by tapping onto the touchscreen. The default GUI can be changed anytime or even set to the GUI switch, which will ask on startup which option you prefer. By using the latter, you can also easily switch into the full-blown LXDE Linux desktop. Of course, the Pandora includes Wi-Fi, but wait, the basic install doesn't include much more than the configurative utilities, and in particular, no web browser.
What about trying Internet Explorer on Linux?
No way, I'm not going to open this Pandora's box. Instead, let's browse through the Open Pandora repository and find some software. And there's quite a lot to discover, apparently being it direct ports of Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, DOSBox, not surprisingly, ScumVM and many more. And no, MS-DOS Manfred, it doesn't run Crysis. Now, you will find the user's guide also on the desktop, and it will give you directions on literally everything, in particular how to get software. Besides creating the SD card yourself and providing the required directory structure, you can also use a built-in tool to do so, and then transfer the files from another machine onto the SD card. Or you use the PND manager to do it all in one go on the Pandora itself, given you have the Wi-Fi enabled first. Either way, you'll end up with a heap of additional software and games to enjoy on your Pandora. What do you think about it? Did you even own a Pandora or similar device, and what was your experience with it? Let me know in the comments below. I'm the Vintage Collector, and this was my Advent Time story for today. Thanks for watching, and see you again tomorrow.